Welcome back to another edition of This Week in Radio. My name is Big Al. Today is Friday, August 7th, 2020, and we've got a lot of ground to cover this week. Some of the stories we'll be looking at: Rich Eisen returns to terrestrial radio. A staff revolt at one of Washington, D.C.'s top stations leads to the resignation of their general manager. And Intercom Communications adds a vice president for news and promotes 10 executives to new positions. That's just a piece of what we'll be covering on this edition of This Week in Radio. So let's dive right in. Starting off with the 10 executives that will be elevated into new positions at Intercom Communications, plus a new vice president of news for the company. All stories are from Lance Venta of RadioInsight.com. All right, so leading things off is Intercom announces 10 corporate promotions and an addition of a vice president for news. This was listed on Radio Insight on August 5th. In an internal memo, Intercom CEO David Field has announced the promotions of 10 executives on Wednesday, with the following rising to their new titles. Chris Ebbett, Vice President of Programming. Chad Fitzsimmons, Senior Vice President of Promotions and Experiences, previously was the VP of Music Initiatives. Rose Izard, Vice President of the Senior Council. Of course, she was a part of that same Senior Council. Now she'll be overseeing them. John Kennedy, Senior Vice President of Engineering, previously Vice President of Technical Operations. Jennifer Morales, Vice President of Corporate Communications and Public Relations. She was the Senior Director of Corporate Communications. Nancy Muir-Gare, Vice President of Facilities Management. She was previously the Director of that same role. Johnny Palumbo, Vice President of the Senior Council. He was also part of the Senior Council. So he in turn will be taking Rose Izard's spot as Vice President of the Senior Council, while Izard is also being promoted to Vice President. Reggie Rouse, Vice President of Programming. Jeff Sotolanor, Executive Vice President of Programming. And Stephanie Taylor, Vice President of Benefits, Compliance, and Talent Acquisition. She is, of course, the director of that same field. The three programmers on the list joined Intercom through the 2017 merger of CBS Radio. Sotolano, that's his name. Jeff Sotolano. He was the Vice President of Programming and then was promoted to Senior VP of Radio and Radio.com Programming. Ebbett has served as Program Director of LA's K-Earth 101 since 2014 and has also programmed stations in Philadelphia, Phoenix, and Toronto. Rouse is Intercom's urban format captain and current program director at V103 in Atlanta. Intercom has also announced the addition of Bill Smead to the company as its vice president of news. Smead, quote unquote, will spearhead our work to enhance and expand our news brands, building on their unparalleled position in our communities and adding new products and capabilities across our broadcast, digital, podcast, and smart speaker platforms. Smee has served in production and executive roles at CNN, Discovery Times, Slate, and NBC News, and consulted on video strategies for groups including Intercom, The Huffington Post, and Mashable. Field also confirmed that Intercom employees will not return to their offices until January 2021 at the earliest, writing, quote, "Frankly, it is disheartening that we will not all be together for the next several months. But it is the right thing to do for the collective health of our teams and our families. It is a testament to the work ethic of our team that we have been able to remain highly productive and effective as we work remotely. We need to ensure that in the months ahead, we continue to evolve our work practices to continue performing at our very best under these unusual circumstances." Our next story this week, 98.7 ESPN New York revises its on-air lineup. This was written by Lance Venta from RadioInsight.com on August 4th. As ESPN Radio prepares to debut its new national lineup on August 17th, the company is adjusting the schedule of New York affiliate WEPN FM, which is 98.7 ESPN New York, to clear parts of two nationally syndicated programs in the New York market. The New York Post reports that Gordon Danes will continue his local hour at 5 a.m., leading into the new morning drive program entitled Keyshawn, J, and Zubin, which will be hosted by former NFL wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson, as well as Jay Williams and Zubin Menhenti. WEPN FM will carry all but the final hour of the National Morning Drive show from 6 to 9 a.m. Rick DiPietro, Chris Canty, and Dave Rothenberg will move its program an hour earlier from 10 to 1 p.m. to 9 to 11 a.m., while Alan Hahn and Brett Scott slide up from 1 to 3 p.m. to 11 to 1 p.m. These moves will allow WEPN FM to clear the final hour of Mike Greenberg's new show in the 1 p.m. hour, and the first hour of Max Kellerman's new show in the 2 p.m. hour. Clearance in the New York, giving both clearance in the New York market. Kellerman previously hosted middays locally on WEPN from 2006 to 2009. That was at the time when WEPN was exclusively on AM. They didn't officially migrate to FM until 2012. The Michael K. Show, which is a course hosted by New York Yankees television play-by-play announcer Michael Kay, will continue to air during the afternoon drive from 3 to 7 p.m. And then Chris Carlin continues his evening show around play-by-play coverage from 7 to 10 p.m. All right. Next up, Bubba the Love Sponge adds Phoenix and Melbourne, Florida area stations. This was written by Lance Venta from RadioInsight.com on August 6th. Now, we told you last week that Bubba the Love Sponge had added 2 new affiliates in Detroit and Pittsburgh. Well, they continue to grow their number of affiliates. Genesis Communications and United Cities Productions have announced 2 new affiliates for their recent rollout of Bubba the Love Sponge. 97.3 The Rattler, which is 1260 AM KBSZ Apache Junction, Arizona, and translator station K247CF 97.3 FM Payson, owned by OneTV.com, and serves the eastern edges of the Phoenix metro area. And Genesis-owned station 1060 WIXC and translator W288DZ 105.5 FM Titusville, Melbourne, Florida, have both added Bubba the Love Sponge on Morning Drive. WIXC is now in full simulcast of the program on its sister station and program flagship 820 WWBA Largo, Tampa, St. Pete. Alright. Rich Eisen show to return to terrestrial radio on San Diego's Mightier 1090. This is written by Lance Venta of RadioInsight.com on August 6th. After being dropped by Fox Sports Radio back in April, the Rich Eisen show returns to broadcast radio on the Mightier 1090, which is XEPRS Tijuana, San Diego, when the sports station launches later this month. Eisen will continue to be heard in the 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific time slot. The program will also be joining the lineup on NBCSN on August 17th and will move its live video stream from YouTube to NBC's new streaming service Peacock in October. The Rich Eisen show is also heard on Sirius XM Channel 211 and as a podcast through Podcast One. XEPRS also added Sports Grid Radio's programming to its lineup from midnight to 9 a.m. Pacific time, including Sports Rage Late Night with Gabe Morency, Bagels and Bad Beats with Scott Wetzel, The Early Line with Kevin Walsh and Dane Martinez, and The Morning After with Ariel Epstein and Jared Smith during Morning Drive. Next up, Sammy Simpson to control Capital Broadcasting in Raleigh. This was written by Lance Venta of RadioInsight.com on August 4th. Sammy Simpson will join Capital Broadcasting as brand and content manager for their Raleigh, North Carolina properties on September 8th. Simpson programmed former Bonneville-owned modern AC station Z104, which at the time was known as WWZZ, Waldorf, Washington, D.C., from 2004 to 2006, and has also served as vice president of East Coast marketing for Entertainment Partners and vice president for marketing for the New York Daily News. The North Carolina native also served as operations manager and program director of K92 WXLK FM Roanoke, Virginia, and has worked on air at stations in Fayetteville and Greensboro. Simpson also served as national director of promotions at Bonneville Communications. He was also a director of marketing and advertising for New York's Z100 and former classic rock station 100.3 The Sound in Los Angeles, and was also the director of integrated marketing for CBS Radio New York. Simpson will oversee programming at all of Capital Broadcasting's Raleigh area stations, including Mix 101.5 WRAL FM, 95.7 That Station, which is 1550 WCLY, and translator W239CK on 95.7, and the sports trio of 99.9 The Fan, which is WCMC FM, 620 The Ticket, WDNC, and 96.5 99.3 The Buzz, known as W243DK 96.5 FM and W257CS 99.3 FM. Simpson replaces Michelle Williams at WRAL FM, who exited the station last month, and he also replaces Dennis Glasgow on the 3 sports stations, who departed Capital Broadcasting back in June. WGFX promotes Jonathan Schaefer to Assistant Program Director. This was written by Lance Venta, RadioInsight.com, August 7th, 2020. Cumulus Media-owned sports station 104.5 The Zone, which is WGFX Gallatin, Nashville, has promoted morning show producer Jonathan Schaefer to Assistant Program Director. Schaefer will continue as the producer of its morning show with his new duties added. Prior to joining WGFX last year, Schaefer spent a decade at legendary country station 650 WSM as their assistant program director and production director, as well as operational manager and program director. Schaefer has also programmed 106.7 The Fan, which of course is WNFN Millersville. That's the former sports station that has now turned into a Top 40 CHR, rebranded recently as Hot 106.7, and also served as operations manager at both WWCH and WCCR in Clareton, Pennsylvania. And our final story this week, or should I say our final stories this week, WAMU General Manager J.J. Yore resigns amidst a staff revolt, and Mana Kashfi is promoted to Chief Content Officer. This was written earlier today by Lance Venta of RadioInsight.com. Following a staff revolt over how the station handled allegations of harassment against former reporter Martin D. Cairo, American University-owned 88.5 WAMU Washington General Manager J.J. Yore has resigned. Employees at the station demanded Yore resign after a meeting last week over how he and the station failed to do anything about the complaints and promoted DeCaro to a full-time position, despite being warned repeatedly about sexual harassment. At the July 31st staff meeting, Yore told employees he intended to stay on, saying, "My choice, at least for now, is to say to your face, is to stay to face you and try to implement the changes that we need to make." WAMU has had other issues in recent months, including American University investigating senior managing editor Zuri Berry over allegations that he created conditions that caused 2 black journalists to leave the station. Also, the resignation of Jeffrey Katz as news director, but staying on as senior editor. And the departure of Andy McDaniel in May to become president and CEO of NPR member station WBEZ in Chicago. You're joined WAMU in May 2014 after service as vice president and executive producer of the American public media program Marketplace from 1997 to 2013. Mana Kashfi, who served as interim chief control officer since McDaniel's departure back in May, will be named to the same position permanently. Kashfi joined WAMU in December 2018 as executive producer of the Kojo Namdi Show. She previously spent the majority of her career at multiple television and digital positions in Washington, including AOL, CGTN America, WYD Media, and Voice of America. And that's the news from across the world of radio from the past few days. We will be back once again next Friday as we roll out another edition of News of the Week. And if you're wondering what's taking so long with my New York City video, it's a lot. I'm telling you, this is the largest market in the country that I'm working on, and I'm just now getting to the commercial band on FM. I look to have all those stations written down by tonight or tomorrow and have this video recorded this weekend. So keep on the lookout for that. Anyway, if you like what I'm doing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, hit that bell to get notified every time I go live, and I will keep you up to date on all things radio. For now, this is Big Al signing off. Have a killer weekend. I will talk to you later. Peace out.